The first game I want to talk about, we got 4-4 LSU taking off 7-1 Alabama. This game is going to be played 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Alabama is a 28.5 point favorite going into this game. And I initially was going back and forth trying to decide if I should talk about this game, if I should just pick another game. And also, something that's really weird is that this game is being played on ESPN. And that's kind of weird to me because I remember over the last couple of years, this game is normally played on CBS at 8 p.m. So I don't really know why this game isn't being broadcasted on CBS at 8 p.m. this year. Don't really understand why, but the reason why I'm so excited to watch this game, I may be more excited to watch this game than a lot of you LSU fans, but last year, Alabama steamrolled and stomped on LSU. Okay? And Nick Saban had a different look in his eye before the game. Because I don't know if a lot of you guys remember, but he was interviewed before the game, and basically he had my favorite pre-game interview ever in sports. He came out and he said that he wants to come out and Alabama wants to come out and change the way that LSU thinks. You see, last year, LSU was super cocky over the win over Alabama. They were the big boys. They won a national championship. And Nick Saban was kind of rubbed the wrong way by LSU and what they did after the win against Alabama. So Nick Saban basically said, we want to come in and change the way they think. And that's exactly what they did. Nick Saban pretty much had a different look in his eyes. He didn't want to win the game. He wanted to win the game and embarrass and humiliate LSU. And that's what Alabama did because they ran it up on LSU. LSU got a three-letter word that I'm not going to use because I want to keep this PG. But let's just keep it, PG. And let's just say that LSU got a butt whooping. You remember when you used to get in trouble at school and you came home and your parents made you go get the leather belt and then they keep trying to tell you to move your hands so they can whoop you and stuff like that? Well, that's what happened with LSU last year. So the question is there going to be a part 2 of the massacre from last year that takes place this year? Because LSU hasn't really looked all that great. And we know what's going to happen with Ed Orgeron after the season. But I mean, does LSU have a chance? LSU does have a chance. This is a crazy year of college football. There have been a lot of upsets taking place. And I definitely feel like LSU does have a realistic possibility of winning this game. And I know a lot of you guys may be like, well, JT, you're lying. LSU ain't got a chance to win this game. And Alabama isn't as dominant as a team as a lot of people make them out to be. Same thing with Georgia. Like, Georgia has a really great defense, but Georgia's still not as good as a team as a lot of people think they are. And when you look at this Bama team, okay, this Bama team isn't bad. I'm not trying to say that, but I definitely feel like there are some holes that LSU may be able to exploit when it comes to this Alabama team. I don't really think that this Alabama team is all that great up front, at least to the level of play that we are accustomed to seeing out of Alabama when it comes to their offensive line play. So if LSU can get consistent pressure on Bryce Young, that's one factor that could be a reason why they could win this game. And also another thing is that for LSU, if they're going to have a chance at winning this game, Max Johnson is going to have to ball out. Now, I've been a big defender of Max Johnson because there are a lot of LSU fans who always, talk down on him, don't really think he's good. But I really feel like Max Johnson has had a better season than what a lot of people in the LSU fan base are giving him credit for. And you can say, well, JT was only good because he was throwing the ball to Keyshawn Boutte and whatnot. But I feel like if LSU can hire the right head coach and the right head coach can bring in the proper offense offensive coordinator. I really feel like Max Johnson has a lot of potential. Okay, so I'm really high on Max Johnson. I'm higher on Max Johnson than most people, but he's going to have the game of pretty much his career if LSU is going to be able to pull off the upset. Now, for LSU, when I was looking up extra resources to use for this video, maybe it was some injury details, or maybe something that either one of these two coaches said during their press conferences. Couldn't really find anything, but I did find an interesting article. It was on the Bleacher Report app, and basically somebody was asking, will LSU be bowl eligible this year? And I was like, let me check LSU's schedule. So LSU has to play Alabama this weekend. Then they play Arkansas. You play ULM, University of Louisiana Monroe. Then you got Texas A&M. And out of the remaining games, the only one that really is set in stone as a W, at least from right now, is when they play ULM. So if LSU is going to make it to a bowl game this year, they're going to have to be able to beat Alabama, Arkansas, or Texas A&M, one of those three teams, and these are pretty tough opponents, and we already know the behemoth that they have in front of them this Saturday. And on top of that, okay, I want to know if LSU is going to be able to continue to have success in the run game, because I know there are a lot of negatives surrounding LSU's football program right now, but I mean, one positive is that the run game has kind of picked up over the last couple of games. Davis Price has kind of been the workload back for LSU over the last couple of weeks. He has kind of come on as of late, and I think that he also has to have another big game if LSU is going to be able to pull off the upset against Alabama, because Max Johnson isn't going to be able to win this game by himself. Like, yeah, he's going to have a crazy performance, but at the same time, you do have to be able to maintain the ability to be balanced, and I think that's going to be really key for LSU in this game. And also on top of that, there are a lot of people who are going to say, okay, can LSU get into the fourth quarter? I'm not asking that. I'm asking, can LSU stay in the game after the first quarter? Can they stay in the game after halftime? Because for LSU, man, like, I'm not worried about can they get to the fourth quarter. Forget that. Can they make it out of the first quarter? Like, if you're an LSU fan and the game's tied 0-0, or you're not down by 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, you got to feel pretty happy, okay? Because, I mean, LSU's defense hasn't been good this year. The secondary hasn't been all that great. The pass rush has pretty much been the strength of this team. So for LSU, if they're able to get some pressure on Bryce Young, that's going to vote well in their favor. But also, they had to be able to stop Brian Robinson, and they had to be able to stop the rushing attack of Alabama, which is something that LSU hasn't had any success doing this year when it comes to their run defense. So we all know I'm taking Alabama to win this game. I think Alabama wins this game 42-21, and I only think that LSU is going to score when Alabama puts the backups in. And I'm not an Alabama fan. I want to see LSU pull off the upset because I'm a fan of chaos. I want to see the craziest college football season ever. I want to see a lot of upsets, and I'm always going to root for the underdog in every single game because I just love to see chaos. And what more chaos could happen if LSU was to pull off the miracle of the century in defeating Alabama? And let me ask you guys a question. If LSU beats Alabama, does anything change? I mean, is Ed Orgeron still out the door? I mean, if Ed Orgeron was able to guide LSU to a victory this Saturday, could there be other programs who would be a little bit more intrigued of hiring Ed Orgeron? Would this make Ed Orgeron look like a better coach? Don't really know, but I'm really excited for this game. I'm hoping that LSU pulls off the victory, but I'm taking Alabama to win this game.